Joining me now are two members of the Maryland Freedom Caucus, Delegate Kathy Szeliga and Delegate Brian Chisholm. Thank you both for being here. First, I want to ask you, what was your reaction when you first heard the new revenue estimates projected $280 million in less revenue over the next 2 years?
Well, I wasn't surprised. We had heard it was coming, and it's, frankly, Mikenzie, it's laughable that they're blaming this on Donald Trump. A large part of this write-down came from numbers that were in place before Donald Trump got elected. So they were slower revenues that came in last year. So, this is not a Donald Trump problem, but they are going to try to make it that. And they've been warned. I mean, experts have been telling lawmakers and the governor in Annapolis that the economy is struggling and you better stop the spending spree.
Does it concern you at all about the federal workers who are expected to be laid off? They're projecting some 28,000 federal workers in the state of Maryland alone to be out of a job. Does that concern you about the state's bottom line?
Yeah, it's always concerning. Of course, we don't want good people losing their job, but at this point, we can't continue to run up this deficit. I mean, when we're talking about the federal government, we're talking about $37 trillion. Everybody understands that that's unsustainable. I think that good, hardworking people are going to land on their feet. The problem is, the only way we're ever going to get out of this budget problem is to grow the private sector and cut government spending. And the problem is, right now, we're looking at Governor Moore, and his solution to this is to grow government. You see this. He wants to add 5,000 new employees, and he's continuing to cut the private sector. That's why we're the fourth highest migrated state out in the country.
So there are obviously a lot of plans on the table when it comes to generating new revenue. Is there anything that either of you would support in terms of bringing in more money to the state, or are you looking for no new tax hikes or tax fee increases in the state?
Well, we are committed. The Freedom Caucus, Delegate Chisholm and I, the rest of the members, we are committed to no new taxes. Look, 20 years ago, the government took from every citizen, just the state of Maryland, about $4,000 a year per person. Today, the state of Maryland is taking almost $11,000 per person out of your checkbook. And so we just need to freeze this. We don't need more tax increases. What we need is fiscal responsibility. We have a budget that has been growing at 6% at least, with an economy that's growing about 3%. It's just frankly not sustainable. And, I hope that the lawmakers in Annapolis will see that. I am truly concerned about the tax increases that they're going to pass.
What would you cut in the budget if you don't want to see any tax increases?
I think if you just freeze the budget where it is right now and try to grow the private sector. Right now, we're continuing to grow. The governor's own executive office is proposing to go from $16 million right now for his salaries in his office to $24 million in his office. I suspect that's because he's running for governor and doesn't really care about running the state of Maryland. And that's sad, because the only way to get out of this is really to grow the private sector. Stop spending where we are right now. We don't need drastic cuts, but stop the spending and grow the private sector. We're 50 out of 50 states in labor costs. We're 44th in business friendliness. You cannot get out of this budget problem without growing the private sector. He says that, but does the opposite.
How do you think the B2B, the business-to-business tax, would impact that?
This business-to-business tax is potentially, look, this is my 15th year in Annapolis, and this might be the worst idea I've seen yet. We are calling on Governor Wes Moore to come out and say he's going to veto this. He just said that he will not sign something that hurts middle-class people. This business-to-business tax will harm small businesses, middle-class families. So landscaping businesses that cut the grass of another business will have to charge them a tax. Your accountant will have to charge a small business a tax. It is taxing small business. And small business is the heart of Maryland's economy. You just can't balance the budget on the backs of small business, which are our families and our middle class people that live here.
The B2B tax, the delivery tax, the governor says he doesn't expect those taxes to be passed on to the consumer. Is that unrealistic?
I think there's going to be a battle now between the Democrat lawmakers and the governor. I mean, today there was another bill heard on sugary drinks. So now we're going after chips, sugary drinks, deliveries to your front door. Everything that moves, they want to tax. And who wins? I don't know. It seems like the General Assembly seems to be able to flex their muscle more than the governor at times. And if that's the case, they're worse than the governor at this point of what they want to spend and what they want to tax. So I don't know where we're going to come out, but there's no good options at this point.
All right, delegates, thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time. We have a lot more to get through as the session wraps up, so this conversation is far from over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mikenzie.